Hi, I'm Becky, and this is my starter post about gender, status, and the division of labor. I thought it was interesting that the authors talk about that cross-culturally women take responsibility for childbearing and housework. They talk about that on page 227. I thought it bears more conversation, though, about what that exactly means. Even if mostly women do it, in our culture, for example, there's not a lot of other women around to help. We don't have as much access to extended family and other support systems like really high quality childcare. So even if women take primary responsibility, what that means, I think, has a huge what that means is impacted in a huge way by culture and what kind of supports are in place for women. If they do work outside the home, I totally agree, based on my own work in HR, human resources and equity work throughout the years, that there do continue to be areas where women predominate that they don't get paid as much as predominantly male fields. There's been lots of research done about why there aren't more women, for example, in skilled crafts, plumbers, electricians, and why are they more often in clerical areas that don't pay nearly as well as the skilled crafts. That's a national problem, and I think that it probably is impacted by all sorts of the things that the author talked about, whether and at each level in the ecological system. What their parents told them, what their friends at school thought was the right kind of thing. The one thing I didn't really agree with that the authors talked about was that in industrialized societies that perhaps women can express their more truly gendered innate selves. They talk about that on page 229, talking about that maybe women just don't like being engineers, and so when they have the freedom to choose, they just don't choose it. I would suggest that that's impacted by all sorts of things, including parental and pressure, sibling pressure, friends, educational systems. I know that a woman colleague of mine who had worked with engineering students thought that first-year women engineering students tended to internalize their initial failures in these tough courses, whereas their male students tended to externalize them, thinking the professor was a jerk. So I don't know whether that's true or not. I know that she told me that that was her experience, and that she really believed that that impacted whether women stayed in engineering and then went on to make the kind of money that engineers make. So again, those are all sorts of cultural and other sorts of microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, macrosystem pressures, which I think are fascinating. I guess in short, I agree with the authors when they say that gender permeates all levels of ecological systems throughout the adult life, and I would suggest it goes on from infancy, to childhood, throughout the adult life, and into old age. Just one point about that, they talk about non-Western societies sort of revering older women. It's interesting, my experience has been as an older woman that you get a lot of attention and praise for doing things like volunteer work as an older woman, but I think that praise is sometimes easier to give because you aren't getting paid or competing for a paid position. So that's my opinion. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks.